Right, we need to clean up our inventory here. Alright, welcome back, guys. Welcome back. How have you been? Happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a great week. And I'm happy to share another Thursday of Sacred 2 with all of you. Last time we analyzed a lot of things on Tuesday, and look at this. We are almost done with the swamp region. We still have a lot of side quests, but I infer that today we'll be able to finish the swamp region once and for all. Last time we did a lot of exploration. We finally covered all of this territory. If we finish the swamp region today, after I clear all the side quests and everything, we'll remember this is the main quest and this is the main Inquisitor's quest, the evil quest, and this is a good side quest. Those lead you to the desert, so that'll be the next region. But before we go, we have to explore two zones that I had no idea they were explorable. As you can see here, this final section of the initial region of Ancaria that I explored all the way through here, but I didn't stop here. As you can see, it's unexplored, and it's not connected with the swamp. Now we know it, now that we've explored all of the swamp. Now that we've explored all of the swamp, we know... Now that we've explored all of the swamp, we know that we cannot access this region from here. I initially thought that you could do that. And if you remember correctly, people, this Shalun Zoom region here, we had a problem because the game crashed before I managed to somehow fix the crashes of the game. It crashed and we couldn't explore a specific cavern and region that was over there. So we also need to explore that one. So if today we finish the swamp region, I want to go over there and explore those two. Then I'm wondering if actually you cannot explore these zones. For example, this island here, you can explore it, I've seen it. And this region here, you should be able to explore it, but I don't know how to get to them yet. So the same for those weird islands around Seraphim Island. So then we have some regions that we need to go back to. But today, this one, which for sure I knew that we could that we have access to it. If we finish the swamp region, we'll get to that one and to Shalun soon. So we'll leave everything. Ready. We'll leave everything ready for the desert and the other regions. See, we already have dark rituals right there leading us to the desert region. Right. I have to turn in a lot of quests that we did last time. Here we have another one, and we have to backtrack a bit, but we have the portals there to explore over there. And we also have this plateau here that is connected to this one, so it's actually two zones that we have to explore. Alright. Enough of my boring summary recap for you people. Well, please understand that for those of you who might be joining us right now, watching this as a YouTube VOD in the future, this is quite useful because they'll know at least where we are. Okay. As for today, we depart. No, we don't depart. We first have to turn in all of these quests. See if they are not nested quests. Let me Alt-Tab to ensure I flush the memory of the game at least once during gameplay. There we go. That has helped me greatly at preventing the game from crashing. So Let me turn in my quests, because otherwise, I know this game, otherwise maybe we have some quests that we have to complete. At the very same spot that we are going to. After turning in these ones, because they may be nested quests. So first, let me turn those in. Let me turn these in, and we'll begin. We'll begin. We're already finishing the quests, people. We have to turn them in, otherwise we don't get experience. Gossip, nothing but gossip. What's happening with this one? What's going on? That one wasn't a quest to turn in. There we have another one that we haven't taken. Hang on a second. Let me grab them, and we can begin. For today, I wanted to focus the analysis of the game, our beautiful analysis of the game, on the innovation category of the analysis. Why? Because it's something that we haven't... I've talked about it a lot, but we haven't established kind of like a direct comparison of Sacred 2 with a lot of other aspects. Yeah, we've done it, but it was always using other games as examples. So, and it was more related to the genre Sacred 2 belongs to the genre classification of it, rather than the very contributions that Sacred 2 does to its own genre, to the MMORPG genre. Do you have the head? Yes, there it is. How are you? You're a scoundrel. You burn it. There we go. That head is mine. The head is mine. Blah 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 blah. There we have a delayed quest, and we have a quest that... This one is a delayed quest. What is that? Identification disc. I was looking for that. Those were the dog tags. The so-called dog tags. No, I don't want to talk to you about my salvation. Alright. And we have Voices from Beyond. Let's see. I think we did this one the other day, on Tuesday. Incredible, these new findings challenge everything we got. The bottle. I'll mention your name in your next book. It's simply amazing. These findings are worth more than the 10 last years of research. Your system will know. Alright, there we go. Yeah, that one we did last time. We have another quest there that was just unlocked. Remember, people, I better grab all of the quests before departing, because otherwise I'll have to backtrack and come back for the quests, and we're doing a 100% completion of the game. Something very, very unique. But yeah, pretty much. Today I wanted to talk about the innovation category of the analysis. How much does Sacred 2... How much does it contribute... How much does it contribute to the MMORPG genre, now that we've established the genre classification of the game, and also the quality of the ambience. The cult of the nameless, parties and things. Okay. We probably have to turn in those ones. Alright, let's do that. Let's turn in those, because they're probably tied all together. So let's turn those in. Yeah, I said on Tuesday that we need to turn those in. I want you to talk about the overall grandeur category of the analysis. In case you don't know, as a refresher, the grandeur category of my analysis involves the impact of the ambience, of the plot, of character cohesion on the player. Do characters act according to their personalities in this game? Is there an ambience cohesion of it? Do they act according to the natural time zone that we are in? This is very much a medieval fantasy setting. all those things are extremely important. So yes, pretty much I wanted to analyze those two aspects of the game today, because they are the very two things that I haven't covered at all. Well, we talked a bit, but almost. 13, 14, 15, super, you have gained great advantage over our enemies, you'll not rewarded, thank you, there we go, party time. Ah, that's a legendary.
Aura of power emanates from this item.
Yeah. Remember that I said at the beginning that we should... clean up
from this item.
from time to time. Let me call my imp. There we go. Thank you. Let me call my imp here. Let me... But what the... Ah, it's two-handed. Shit. Two-handed. Let me move all of these here. Because otherwise... Ah, the Wayfarer? No. This one is level armor 39, 33. Yeah, that one I need to update it. 5 million. We've recovered a bit. Let me get rid of all of this. Then we can... The alien's haughtiness, 83, 70. Good, we can sell this one. 13, 16. Good, we can sell this one. We can probably sell the rest of these things. What the? This one has pretty good stats, but well. Tarakis Dart Pact, 76, 76. Pretty much the same. We can sell this as well. Repeated. I think I'm never gonna use Ursus Inquisition again, but well. Quickly, I need to sell all of this stuff as we turned in that quest. Sell, sell, and sell, and sell, and no, not the Wayfarer. Oh damn shit. These ones. This one had regeneration. It doesn't have regeneration per hit, so goodbye. Yeah. If you don't have regeneration per hit, or you don't have the insane stats of these ones, forget it. Okay. That one's done. That one's done. We have two more there. Let's finish all of the quest line, and let's get to the southernmost region once and for all. Okay. As I was saying, the game has a lot of... this is related to the things that I mentioned in the previous stream. The game has a lot of aspects to it that definitely set it apart from most MMORPG games from this generation and from any generation, pretty much, because the game has a lot of unique aspects to it. We are not gonna repeat the stat system in depth as we did on Tuesday. Just as a quick recap, the main part of the innovation...
Lots of rabble, peasants.
There we go. Of the innovation that this game has definitely is the stat system. I'm not gonna go in depth once again as we did last time and on Tuesday and on Thursday of the previous week. Thank you very much. Here's your reward. Perfect. It's not an escape quest. And lastly, he has written a new sermon. The old fool, he should start taking care of his own soul. Okay. The dead hold no secret. There we go. Done and done. Ah, see? I told ya. I told ya. The very same quest is leading me over there. Let's quickly get there. Finish, clean those up. So yes, I was mentioning the innovation category of the analysis, the innovation. A huge part of the innovation of the game is indeed the stat system that we've been analyzing last week and on Tuesday. Why? Why? Well, because Sacred 2 has a lot of layers of complexity, of regarding its stat system, for example, as I've said, it uses 4 elemental damage types. As a quick comparison, in Diablo, in World of Warcraft, you just have 2 damage types and they don't have any difference between themselves. It's not that monsters are specifically resistant against magic or physical damage in Diablo or World of Warcraft, just so we use Blizzard's classic system as a comparison. No. And here those 5 elemental types of damage, pretty similar to Borderlands, 5 elemental damage types of offense and defense, because you also have to defend with them. As you can see here, I can, according to the relic system of the game, that I can change my relics. I can modify my elemental resistances. So that's a huge part of the innovation that Sacred 2 does, because back in the day, back in the early 2000s, the elemental system of damage and defense wasn't that common. Kind of like, if I have to think about the game that implements it, I have to think about Hellgate London, which is only 1 year, was released 1 year before this one. In the case of Baldur's Gate, it doesn't have something like an elemental damage system in which fire damage is different than ice damage or magic or poison. Okay, there we go. Done, done, and done. Okay, let's get back to the village then. Let's get back to the village and finish our quests. So yes, the stat system is indeed a huge part of the innovation. Just so you have a reference, a quick reference, when I say innovation, I mean how much the game's mechanics contribute to changing the genre this game belongs to. That's why I first do the genre classification of the game before analyzing this aspect of it. Let me move. There we go. That's why I always do the genre classification of the game before getting into the innovation category of the analysis, because if you don't classify the genre the game belongs to, you cannot notice the influences it might have had on future games. For example, you need to know that World of Warcraft belongs to the MMORPG genre before explaining what games it influenced, how it influenced, I don't know, Star Wars: The Republic, WildStar. Well, in the case of Lineage 2, they were developed pretty much at the same time, so no. So yes, that's why I first do the genre classification. In the case of Sacred 2, on Thursday we said that precisely the game belongs to the isometric MMORPG genre. It's an MMORPG genre. It's an MMORPG game, sorry, with an isometric camera, pretty similar to Lineage 2. Now, we have the conundrum. There's the conundrum that Hellgate London, Borderlands 1, and this game, which are the ones that use an elemental damage system, in which you have in Borderlands and in Hellgate London, I don't know if there are 5 or 4 elemental damage types. But yes, the game uses an elemental damage system. It uses an elemental damage system. All of them use an elemental damage system. And that's a shared feature between them. Which... Hang on a second, I don't want them to kill me. Otherwise we'll lose all of the gold that we've been collecting. Alright, that's it. We needed 5 of those, right? Perfect. First quest is done. Let's go back and let's continue with the next quest. as I've said, Borderlands, Sacred 2, and Hellgate London, they use, out of the ones that I can think of, they all use the elemental damage type system. Having different elemental damage types to deal with enemies. Some enemies will have different resistances, so we have that system in place, right? So how does this compare? How does this elemental damage system, Sacred 2's elemental damage system, how does it compare to the one present in the other two, in Borderlands and Hellgate London? Just as a quick reference, because I'm using these examples because they were all developed roughly at the same time. Not at the same time, but in a pretty similar period of time. Like Hellgate London was 2007 and this one was 2008, but this one it probably took much more time because it's much bigger. So yes, they were from the same period of time. Borderlands 1 was what? It was 2008 or 2009? I think it was 2009. Borderlands 1.
Will be erased from this world.
It was a bit later. It was the successor of Hellgate London after all. So yes, they were all developed roughly at the same time. So how does this elemental system compare to the games that were developed in the same period of time regarding the first section of the innovation category of the analysis? Well, I would say that the elemental system, this brings me back to the fact that the elemental system in Sacred 2, the elemental system has some variations that you won't find. The objective should be more or less over here. I can see it after all. The elemental system in this game has some variations that you won't find in other games. Especially those that I cited. Well, first of all, those that I cited. Pretty much in any other game. Ah, you guys again, you guys again, you guys again. We have our friends, the bots, coming to say hello. We have our friends, the bots, coming to say hello. God damn it. Let me. Whoops, I seem to have set up a trap, damn it. First we kill this, then we ban the bots. Hang on a second, people. God damn it. You know that the only thing that you prove when offering those bots like this, the only thing that you prove is that most Twitch streamers that have an audience, it's because they pay bots. You know that's the only thing you're proving, and that's a disgrace because the only thing that you do is distort real views, and those of us with real talent that we put in a lot of effort to in my case to analyze games and those things, the only thing that you do is distort views, so people with real talent can never emerge and never have a chance at providing something actually useful to the community. That's the thing. The only thing that you prove by offering bots is that. Alright, bot already banned. God damn it. So, this is the objective. You slain my bodyguards, surely you have come here to keep me from spreading my new recipe. Before you do anything hastily, listen to this. I'm willing to sell you the potion and the original recipe for 50 gold. After that, I'll leave this one forever. You don't agree? Well, is that weird smile and what are you doing with that weapon?
For curve.
Well, I mean... Well, whatever. Picked up original side, whatever. Da, 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 da. See, this is something related to the ambience, in terms of the innovation category of the analysis. Something unique of this game. Pay attention to the sound samples of the game. I mentioned this the other day, but it stopped raining, so I'll do this again today. I wanted to do this again today. Then we'll go back to the elemental system, don't worry. I haven't forgotten because of the bot. But I want to take advantage of the fact that the rain is not stopping here. Pay attention to the sound, please. Pay attention to the rain sounds. Notice the difference? This game, in terms of its ambience, may be one of the most cohesive experiences you'll ever have. Look at this. Pay attention to the sound, listen to the sound. It has a realistic sound samples whenever you enter a hut or a house, in the case of the capital cities that we've explored previously to reaching the swamp. Now pay attention to the footsteps. See how many samples. I could recognize at least 3 different sound samples. Pay attention. Wood. Wet terrain. Water. Water. Totally different when compared to wet mud or ground. And when it's not raining, the difference in sound does exist as well. So yes, the game has at least a dozen of, I was going to say an exaggeration, millions of sound samples. It has dozens of different sound samples. But the one that absolutely blew my mind is the one that they designed when you enter a house. Absolutely incredible. See how cohesive the environment is. We'll go back to that later. I want you to begin with the stat system. How does the stat system compare to how does it compare to Borderlands and Hellgate London, that are the two main games that use elemental stat system damage systems? Well, I would say that in Sacred 2, the elemental damage system, it's even more complex. Why, Razor? Why? Because of 2 elements. One, the scarcity of the loot. The scarcity of the loot. The lower... the first direct comparison that I wanted to make is that the RNG of the loot in Hellgate London is quite different when compared to the other two, to Borderlands and to Hellgate London. In Sacred 2 is different when compared to Borderlands and Hellgate London. So we have a game with an elemental damage and defense types system in place that you have to master, that the player has to master, and that we explained and explored. That we explored on Thursday and Tuesday. That we explored on Tuesday of this week and Thursday of the past week. And that elemental damage system,
nothing but a fluke.
It's much more complex in Sacred 2 when compared to Borderlands and Hellgate London. You must be wondering, why, Razor? Why? I'm not saying that the system, that the elemental damage system in those games is simple, because it's not. They are games that take quite some time to master, it's true, but compared to Sacred 2, we can see a much more predominant hang on a second. A much more predominant aspect of its MMORPG genre element. A much more predominant role of that genre in this game. Why? Because the RNG, the loot, basically the loot system in this game has much more RNG embedded into it, randomly generated weapons. Basically, the weapons that you loot is much more difficult. It's much more difficult to loot the weapons you need with the correct elemental damage types, right? Consider that it took me 29, almost, no, 28, 27, it was, I think it was 27. It took me many more days, in this case streams, of gameplay to loot the correct weapon, weapons when compared to Hellgate London or Borderlands, especially with Borderlands. In the case of Hellgate London, it was much more. I could loot. It did take some time, but not as much as in this game. In this game, it took me literally more than half of my playthrough to loot a weapon. To loot the weapon that I required. That I actually required. So how does that impact the innovation and the differences with all of those? Pretty much the differences with other games that will set Sacred 2 apart from them, that will contribute to the innovation category of the analysis, how much Sacred 2 contributes to redefine the mechanics of the genre. Well, in the case of the loot, that's why I wanted to begin with the elemental damage system, because it's tied to the loot system of the game, because it will depend on the weapons that you loot, at least for your basic attacks. In the case of your spells, it will be according to to your gloves, at least as far as I can tell. So yes, the first thing that I wanted to highlight is that the elemental damage system present in Sacred 2 it's a bit more complex than in Hellgate London and Borderlands. Why? Because of what we mentioned on Thursday, remember. The elemental damage type of the spells that you cast is defined by a different is dissociated let me move please is dissociated from your main weapon. You have to here I'll show you, because otherwise it'll be kind of like a mess, and I'll explain it again. I did this on Thursday and Tuesday, but otherwise, if you're watching this as a YouTuber and it's the first time, I'll do it again. Can you see that here I have my 3 elemental damage types, right? Well, how does the system work in most isometric action RPGs, MMORPG games, or modern RPG games? As I've said, Diablo, Diablo 1, Diablo 2, World of Warcraft, the classic Blizzard system is to have just physical magic damage. Magic damage is kind of like the one with the yellow floating damage numbers, and physical damage is with white floating damage numbers, pretty much. But there's no impact behind the scenes in terms of the defense of my, in terms of the elemental resistances of my enemies. What do I mean by this? In World of Warcraft, in Diablo, there aren't elemental resistances like there are in Hellgate London, like there are in Borderlands, to such degree of detail as in this game. As you can see here, I deal 30% physical damage, 30% magic damage, 30% fire damage with my basic attacks. This is my basic attack damage, as you can see here. However, it has nothing to do with my ability damage. As you can see, I managed, this was actually originally ice damage, Dislodged Spirit, and for example here, if you can see, that's why I opened this one, so you can see Levin Array was physical damage originally. This one was half physical, it was completely physical originally, Clustering Maelstrom, and this one was originally all physical. But as you can see here, people, I managed to manipulate the elemental damage type of my spells. Right? That's why you can see that the combat art elemental damage type is different. It's 100% poison when I select Dislodge Spirit, but my basic attack is still 30% physical, 30% magic, and 30% fire. As you can see, this, back in the day, let's take into account the context. On top of this, we have to add the layer of abstract complexity to the gameplay mechanics that enemies, as you can see here, they also deal physical damage, poison damage, and have physical resistance and poison resistance, but that changes when we get to something that is not a spider. For example, here, this Swamp Olm, it has magic resistance, physical resistance, magic attack, and physical attack. So, straight up, right off the bat, we get a game that has a much more complex elemental damage system. Let's get to the defensive aspect of it that we've been explaining on Thursday and Tuesday, but just as a quick recap, if you're watching this as a YouTube VOD, or if you're joining the series right now, watching this as a YouTube VOD in the future, so you have a quick recap. It also features an active defense system, because as you can see, these are my elemental resistances, and I haven't looted. It's impossible, basically, to loot something, a piece of gear, that passively covers them all, right? I can enhance them partially, because I have, it was kind of like this one, Arthamaxa Star. See, this one, for example, increases all of my armor types, right? All of my elemental resistances of my armor type. But the rest of my gear, as you can see, it's almost all physical. Here, for example, I looted one after a lot of days that enhances a bit of my magic resistance. But besides this legendary, and we're doing 100% completion of the game, take this into account. We're doing a 100% completion of the game. In 31 days of gameplay, with a 100% completion of the game, I just looted this, only one amulet, covering all of this immense world, only one item that actually enhances elemental resistances. What am I trying to convey with this? That the abstract complexity of the elemental stat system in Sacred 2 has a higher degree of complexity than the average isometric action RPG, the average MMORPG, and the average modern RPG game. The same for classic RPG games like Baldur's Gate and the like. But on top of that, we add the complexity of the relic system, that as you can see I can enhance, since I cannot loot, because the game is not designed like that, I cannot loot something that will enhance all of them. I have to actively change my defenses during combat according to the elemental damage of my enemies. Why am I highlighting this when I also did it on Thursday and Tuesday? Because it's also part of the innovation part of the game. It's also part of the innovation section of the game, the category of the analysis, pretty much. Let's continue with all natural products. Let's continue with that one, with all natural products. We need to continue that. Why am I highlighting this? Because while Hellgate London and Borderlands do have the abstract complexity that World of Warcraft and Diablo don't have, having 4 types of elemental damage and defenses instead of one plain type of damage that you have to worry about, Sacred 2 goes a bit beyond Borderlands, a bit more beyond the complexity threshold of Borderlands and Hellgate London, as I see it, because in Borderlands and Hellgate London you have the 4 elemental damage types, you have them, the abstract complexity of the stat system is the same, it would apparently be the same at first glance, but that's not the case. That's not the case, because on top of that you have the relic system. In Borderlands, in Hellgate London, in the few... I don't know if in Destiny, I haven't played the Destiny. In the case of the few that it follows Borderlands. I played Destiny 2, but I cannot remember, honestly. I completed Destiny 2, the main story, and that's it. But... yeah, Destiny... I think Destiny does have it. The few modern RPGs that do have an elemental system, an elemental damage system embedded, implemented to them, the very few that have it they have a passive way of dealing with the loot, of interacting with the loot system of the game. See the difference with... Notice the difference with Sacred 2. Thanks to the relic system, the player is forced to actively manipulate the elemental resistances system of the game. What the fuck? It's full of... okay. Okay. We have one last settlement. Have a lot of work to do then. I might activate this model. Well, there's no point. We have full here. Oh, damn it. I wasn't expecting that. An unexpected turn of events. Right. Let me explore the place. No. Yeah, there's a quest otherwise. Let me grab it. So yes, if I had to classify the abstract complexity of the elemental systems in games when compared to Sacred 2, I would say that Diablo and World of Warcraft have the most simple one, because the way they handle elemental resistances and damage does not interact with internal mechanics of enemies in those games. Like, it doesn't matter if you deal physical or magic damage. It's the same. You just deal one type of damage. You don't have to worry about fire resistance, ice resistance, poison resistance. You don't have to worry about that. So we have at the bottom kind of like, let's say, plain complexity, like only one type of damage. Then above that we have the system of Hellgate London and Borderlands, the classic 4 types of elemental resistances and damage. However, what I never expected to stumble upon when I started playing this game... Bring me some Hydra tongues, please. Bring me Hydra tongues, or I have to hurry. Well,
is said to be heartless.
I guess I have to hurry. Didn't we finish Venomous Prey last time? Well, he said hurry. He told me to hurry to... but I don't know where to get them. Alright, well, I don't want this to stop working. The Hydra tongues. One last wish. There we go. I don't want to choose one. Ah, this one. This is easy. Well, let's begin with this one because maybe it's a time quest, and I don't want to fuck up the quests. Oh, Hydra here. Don't worry. I went up against the Ice Hydra. See, for example, this one, I killed it way too fast, but it dealt, back when it was alive, it dealt physical, magic, and poison damage. Just like the Ice Hydra. But yeah, above the plain elemental damage system of World of Warcraft and Diablo, of Blizzard system, we have Borderlands and Hellgate London and Borderlands. First Hellgate London because it was released before. In which you have to worry about 4 types of elemental resistances and 4 types of elemental damage. Right? Pretty much in Hellgate London and in the like, you deal those 4 types of elemental resistances and those classic 4 types of elemental damages. I cannot remember the ones, but they're kind of like fire. In Hellgate London there was fire and some more. One was kind of like not magic, it had a different name. It was kind of like shadow or the same. Having 4 types of different elemental damages that you have the tongues, give them to me. Harry, give me the tongues, Harry. I need tongues, give them to me. Ah, you need more of them. What's the meaning of this? Did this get bagged or what? You don't have the tongues. Okay. You need more then, I guess. What the? Maybe we have to grab more. Do I have to find more? I don't see any more. There was only one Hydra. I don't see any more Hydras. Here? I need a Hydra before I can get the tongues. So yeah. Alright. But what I never expected to find beyond... I never expected to find something beyond Borderlands and Hellgate London's level, which is this game. Which is a game in which the loot system... See how intelligent and how much ingenuity is involved in this. In which the loot system interacts with that elemental damage system in such a way that the abstract complexity is increased even more. Fine, have it your way. You'll see I can stop it hard.
Almost too easy.
Ah. What? Adding up 1 and 1? What the? What was the meaning of that? There weren't any other Hydras to kill. Alright, that's pretty much it. Well, whatever. I gathered the Hydra tongues. Yeah, there was nothing I could do. Pretty much. That was easy. Let's go with all natural products. So yes, beyond that level, we have this one. How does it go beyond Borderlands and Hellgate London's elemental system of having different types of damage? We know that Sacred 2 has different types of damage that are resisted by different types of damage. Right. You have to worry about all of them if you want to be effective in combat. Alright. But then, the defense system, the keys in the defense system. I imagine that if you play the game on Mobius difficulty, kind of like on the highest difficulty, because it's like Diablo, like Hell difficulty in Diablo and Nightmare, in which you can replay the game at a higher difficulty. if you play on those difficulties, I presume you have to actively change. You have to actively change your elemental defenses on the go, and that's a step further when compared to Borderlands and Hellgate London. Why? Because in those games, and in 99% of games, in 99% of games, the few that implement a four-pronged elemental damage system that you have to worry about 4 elemental damage types, damn it, that was a critical, in which you have to worry about 4 elemental damage types, among the few that implement that, in this game, if you play on the highest difficulty, and even on this difficulty, I had to worry about it, you have to actively change your defenses with the relics. It took me a lot of streams to realize that. You have to actively change your elemental defenses, and you must think, Eraser, that's so stupid, you've already commented that. Yeah, but I didn't establish the relationship between... See, for example, this one deals magic damage and this one deals poison damage. But I didn't establish the relationship between that system... see, for example, this one deals magic damage. Between that system and the innovation it brings to the table. I analyzed it from the gameplay perspective, from the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. But I didn't analyze it from the perspective of the innovation it brings to the genre, to the MMORPG genre. Borderlands is pretty much an FPS MMORPG. It's quite similar to... It's more similar in its quest level design to World of Warcraft than Diablo, though we all agree that Diablo is also a hybrid influence to Borderlands. It's also part of the influence, but since the level design and the quest system, I don't want to go back to the genre classification that we've already covered. It's pretty much more similar to an MMORPG. If you think about Destiny, if you think about Borderlands, they have the structure of an MMORPG, just with the first-person camera. If you think about it. Let me go back to that town because I'm sure we have a lot of quests before exploring. So yes, if you take all of that into account, you get as a result that Sacred 2, thanks to the fact that the loot system, this is the key, the loot system isn't... Well, it is responsible because you loot the relics, but the defensive elemental stat system is dissociated from the main gear, from the main loot that you get in the game. Like, you cannot get a lot of... Imagine I could get a chest guard that would increase my fire defense by... I don't know. Imagine that instead of these, I got a chest... not this one, this one. Instead of Quan's plate, see that the armor is 48 points of physical resistance. Imagine instead of physical, if instead of physical, it was physical plus, I don't know, another 48 points of fire defense. That's how it works in Borderlands and Hellgate London. It's through the loot that you increase your elemental resistances. In the case of Borderlands, it's even worse because you don't loot any other gear than your weapons. So it's even more simplified. So Hellgate London, I would say it's a tad above Borderlands because it includes all parts of your gear. But definitely, out of all of them, the order would be Sacred 2 at the top. It would be Sacred 2 at the top because it has a dedicated elemental...
Yeah.
It has a dedicated elemental resistances system dissociated from the main gear. As you can see here, for example, this one does include a bit of elemental resistance, but pay attention to the proportion. It adds a slight portion of magic elemental resistance when compared to this. The main way you increase your elemental resistances, it's through the relic system. So it has a dedicated elemental resistances loot system, which is dissociated from the main loot system of the game, from your main gear. So in terms of the abstract complexity of the elemental damage and defensive system, in this case, of the game, Sacred 2 has the highest complexity. Because of that, because it has a dedicated circuit of looting the relic system just to increase your elemental defense. Fetch my shampoo from the wreckage of the caravan. This is part aging. Hair twice today and covered with so much hair. I have to keep it clean. I miss my shampoo. It must be in the wreckage of the caravan. Would you fetch it for me? Can you keep anything else if I need here? Okay. All I need is my shampoo. We are looking for shampoo here. Take this metal sample to how upsetting. While working on the well, we came across a shiny metal. What if it's silver? It's hard to believe. We could all be living on a vein of silver without even knowing. They are werewolves. Werewolves are kind of like susceptible to silver, according to local legend and folklore. What if the kids came across silver while playing? We have to know for sure. Would you take this metal sample to the... He knows a lot about the subject. Be careful, this stuff is dangerous. Pretty well implemented. See, this is related to the second topic that I wanted to analyze. So let's close on the complexity of the stat system once and for all, because we covered this on Thursday and Tuesday. Sacred 2 has a higher complexity because of the things that I explained. But on top of that, you have to actively change your defenses on the go while fighting enemies. That adds an extra layer of complexity to the defensive aspect of the elemental system of the game. In Borderlands, you don't even have to worry about that, because essentially you only loot weapons. You don't loot gear in Borderlands. You just loot weapons. So it's a Borderlands will establish it. If I was doing kind of like a rank from highest complexity to lowest complexity, on the lowest complexity I would include Diablo and Warcraft, because there's only one damage type that you have to worry about, even if you have a physical, and there's a dissociation between physical and magic, but there isn't an elemental system behind it for the player to play with the resistances and the damage. So those two at the bottom of the complexity, of the abstract complexity. In the middle, Borderlands, because it has 4 types of elemental damage, but you don't have to worry about defense, other than through it uses some relics, something like that, but they are not used for elemental resistances. They are used to modify your abilities. They are not used for resistances. In the middle, Borderlands. Then a bit above it would be Hellgate London, because you do have to loot gear that influences your elemental resistances. But on top of all of them, at the highest abstract complexity of the elemental system, it's Sacred 2. It has the 5 types of damage, the 5 types of defenses, just like Hellgate London. It's not just the offensive types, the offensive elemental damage types, but you also have to worry about the defensive elemental damage types, which we also do in Hellgate London. But in Hellgate London, the innovation doesn't go as far as in Sacred 2. Why? Because here we have a dedicated loot circuit. A dedicated loot circuit that is not present in Hellgate London. In Hellgate London, you loot the very same gear that will enhance your elemental damage, will also enhance your elemental defense. In this game, it has a closed dissociated circuit to enhance your elemental defenses. Why? Because you have to loot the relics, people. You have to loot the relics. If I cannot do this, if I cannot change my elemental resistances, here you can see it, I wouldn't be able to even kill the most simple of world bosses. Let me grab all of the quests and then we'll do all of them together around the village. Aid us in our campaign against the orc expedition. It's so stinking orcs again. They invade the swamps and then kill the hydras and anything they get hands on. It's outrageous. Hydras are extremely rare creatures in the need of our protect. Oh, damn it.
Since this matter is of such
This one is a hydra protector. That's an interesting sight to behold. So yes, if I analyzed the abstract complexity of the elemental system of the gameplay mechanics, and definitely Sacred 2 is above them, above most average, above the average modern RPG game. But I never established the relationship on Thursday regarding the innovation that it brings to the table. Because of what I've said. Okay, hang on a second. Kill 8 wild werewolves, you have to help us. The werewolves are marroning, the lizardmen, the very existence of our village, blah 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 blah. Please kill 8 of the wild werewolves.
for the gods.
Let me grab those 2 more, and let's depart. Bring me 5 olm heads. I don't know about you, but I adore shrunken olm heads, blah blah blah. I'm passionate about them, to relax. Unfortunately, I've run out of olm heads. Before the werewolf, you tend to hear everything you can. Well, very good. We have one more. And let's depart. But as I've said, people, if I had to establish a rank of the abstract complexity of the elemental system of the gameplay mechanics, as I've said, on Thursday I analyzed it as part of the gameplay mechanics, but not as part of the innovation, as how much the elemental offensive and defensive system in place in Sacred 2 contributes to redefine those mechanics. I just analyzed the abstract complexity, but not how much the mechanics contributed to redefine the mechanics of the MMORPG genre. In this case, the isometric action RPG genre as well, because it's a hybrid that way. Bring me 15 tobacco leaves. Oh, my poor husband is a terrible werewolf. Wife, I'm a terrible werewolf. When my husband, another husband, I lose my head. When I caught him Miss Tuesday yesterday, I let me over my head. Well, I was asking her for referring counting on our property. Blah blah blah. Blah, blah. There we go.
If I don't receive appropriate pay, I will send a few crazy hard as nails.
Alright, I think we have all of them. They should be around the village. Perfect. Werewolf hunt. Yeah, they are around the village. See, that's why I always want to grab the side quests first before departing. So, our very first one is here. I have to kill that one. Or not. Alright, as I was mentioning, if I had to establish a rank as a conclusion for the elemental, for the innovation, how much the elemental damage system in its abstract complexity of Sacred 2 is defined, I would say that at the bottom, as I've said, we have World of Warcraft and Diablo, games that have only RPG games that have only one elemental damage type. Then Borderlands with 4 elemental damage types. But that they are used only offensively. Then Hellgate London, which has 4 elemental damage types that are used offensively and defensively. And on top of all of them, I play Sacred 2 because it has 5 types of elemental damage, just like Borderlands, just like Hellgate London, that are used offensively and defensively, like only Hellgate London so far. But it has one more feature that sets it apart from Hellgate London. It has a dedicated loot system just for the defensive elemental resistances. It has a dedicated system just for that. Now let's get to the other part of the innovation category of the analysis that I've been mentioning for 1 hour that I was about to get into and I'm not getting into. the grandeur category of the analysis, the impact of the ambience on the player. Then I will come back to some aspects of the innovation, but I want you to focus on that one because on Thursday and Tuesday we analyzed them kind of like from the gameplay perspective, the complexity of the gameplay mechanics, but we didn't take into account how innovative they are, how
will be erased from this
unique
world.
that they are. Tobacco plant, how unique some of the ideas behind the design philosophy of Sacred 2 are. How innovative they are, because there we go. How innovative they are, because I cannot think of any other game that has a relic system, a dedicated loot system, because at the end of the day you loot relics. A game that has a loot system in place specifically dedicated to the elemental defenses. Right, I need to repeat this once we get to the final analysis of the game. Because it's quite unique. It's quite unique. It's quite unique because you cannot. I cannot think about a lot of games that have an elemental damage system in place, like Borderlands or Hellgate London. But on top of that, I cannot think of a lot of games that use that system both offensively and defensively, because Destiny and Borderlands, they do have an elemental system, an elemental damage system in place, but they don't have an elemental resistances system in place. In World of Warcraft, I think I might be wrong, because you have, I think you have elemental. Wait, do you have elemental resist? Yeah, you have the elemental resistances, but they're kind of like all work together. There are no elemental damage types. Yeah, it's just one. I think it's just one stat. It's not four. Here you have to worry about all of the four individually. Yeah. Then I was right. Yeah, you have to worry about only one. I think it's just elemental resistances, not fire, ice, poison, kind of like separately. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah. So well, that's one thing. Now let's get to the ambience. Let's get to the grandeur category of the analysis, shall we, people? Let's get to it because let's get into it because it's something that we haven't analyzed yet, other than in a very superfluous, in a very shallow way. We barely scratched the surface. Now, if you remember the quest that we just grabbed some minutes ago, that the werewolves were afraid of the silver, and that the werewolves were afraid of the silver and that they wanted to keep the kids away from it, and that for example the werewolf wife was worried about her husband and everything, because I've seen that type of quest in the past, in previous settlements, and considering this is a medieval fantasy setting, this game has one of the most damn it, shit, what's going on? It's gonna crash, shit, god damn it. It's been a while since it has crashed. I don't know what happens. It's so incredibly random that I cannot control it. It's so incredibly random that I cannot control it at all. I cannot control it. God damn it. It's one of those. It happened to me. It crashed like this after a few, yeah, roughly after 15 minutes of gameplay the other day on Tuesday of the previous week. In a very random way. Then it didn't crash for 4 hours. I think it has to do with the zone. It has to do with the zone that the game that you are playing in, related to the. So yeah, in the game, I think it's somehow related to the memory leak. I think it's somehow related to it. But yeah, in terms of the innovation category of the analysis that I was mentioning, it's this must be one of the games one of the games that has the most cohesive NPC behavior I've seen in a while. Like, it's not only that characters act according to their personality. It goes further beyond something that games nowadays don't do, which is the fact that characters not only act according to their personality, but also to the original cultural and social environment of their time. For example, we see a lot of cases, a lot of side quests in which we see that that we have to help a wife that her husband has escaped and is going from tavern to tavern or something like that, which it was pretty common in medieval times in real life. So the game has a lot of respect for its actual medieval setting, something that nowadays we don't get. If you play Baldur's Gate 3, and this is one of the reasons I first of all, I think it was a sacrilege changing the legendary real-time with pulse system for a turn-based system. I think the gameplay system, the core of the gameplay mechanics, it's an absolute pile of crap. And I think they prostituted the legacy of the original Baldur's Gate. Where are we? Alright, we have that portal, but let's go back to the other one. Let's go back to the other one. There we go. Oh, damn it. Oof, I'll have to do a cut for the YouTube board. Damn it. Right here, damn it. God damn it. I'll have to grab all of the quests again. Now I feel like an idiot. God damn it, this game. Let me change the... Let me Alt-Tab so I can grab them all again. I'm not gonna read them again, we've already read them. I'll make a cut for the YouTube bot. Here, the silver. That they are afraid from the well of the silver and everything. Pay attention to this. We've already read it in the previous part, but here you can read it again. Basically, they are afraid from the silver that in popular folklore is that, of course, you get rid of the werewolves thanks to the silver, just like with the vampires and the wooden stick and those things. See that there's a character cohesion to it. Today I wanted to focus, besides the stat system of the game that I mentioned in the previous part, I wanted to focus on the grandeur category of the analysis. The impact of the ambience on the player. I mentioned the incredible variety of sound samples that the game has. An incredible variety of sound samples that the game has. And that we saw in the previous part. That you could see that my footsteps had dry sound samples, wet sound samples, that it had kind of like wood sound samples, mud sound samples, water sound samples, but also God damn it. Let me move, please. Let me move. There we go. There we go. Water sound samples.
Just makes me stronger.
Pretty much everything. And that when you enter the hat, I did this test in the previous part. Damn it, they didn't turn my movement. Shit. And when you enter the hat, the footsteps would go back to being dry. They will go back to being dry.
Right now. That was good.
And like that,
All powerful.
a lot of slight details that I'm going to show you today which indicate the incredible amount of details and care that this game has had from the developers, as you'll see. As you could see when we paid attention to the footsteps, but I'll do so to the sound samples of the footsteps and everything. But well, let's focus on the cohesion that I just mentioned. Let's focus on the cohesion. Characters act according to their personality, right? Each character, each quest giver, each small side quest that you pick in this game, the characters act according to their personality. But not only that, they act according to the cultural and historical setting there. It's a medieval fantasy game, as I mentioned. And we see, for example, as I was mentioning, that we have a lot of fetch quests, we have a lot of side quests in which we have a wife that tells you to go look for her husband that was at a local tavern. It's a pretty common side quest that you get in this game. And that was actually common back in real life, back in medieval times. So that's one of the insane amount of details, not only the stat system that we covered at the beginning of the stream, that add the stat system adds to the innovation that I mentioned at the beginning of the game, that the abstract complexity is the highest possible because you have offensive and defensive elemental systems in place. You have to worry about 4 types of damage and 4 types of defenses. Of elemental defenses. And on top of that, as I've said, it's even higher in terms of complexity when compared to Hellgate London, Borderlands, and the classic Blizzard system from Diablo and World of Warcraft. But well, that's in terms of the innovation category that I wanted to cover today. The other aspect is precisely the impact of the ambience. You could just see, we had dozens of sound samples, as I mentioned. We have characters that act according to their personality. Each of them have their own personality. For example, in escort missions, some of the characters are afraid because it's actually based on real aspects of medieval life. The game has a medieval fantasy setting, and it combines the medieval aspect of it beautifully. Think about how many. I know it's a deep abstraction to think about, but if you pay close attention, people, you'll realize the importance and the quality and the amount of effort that the developers put into creating this game. Think about how many games, many modern games we have nowadays in which NPCs, even if they are in a medieval setting, they have modern personalities and mindsets. That's pretty much a dissonance, a cohesive dissonance, it's called, actually. You have medieval characters that act like in modern games. You have medieval characters that act like in a modern real life setting. That happens with a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean hundreds of modern RPG games. However, if we compare that to the quality of even the most remote side quest of Sacred 2, if we compare that cohesion, that destroys cohesion, kind of like cultural dissonance of the characters, that destroys cohesion of the game. It's not historical, as we usually hear when people complain at forums and those things. They say it's not historically accurate. No, it's beyond that. It's kind of like a cohesive dissonance of the behavior of the character. So in Sacred 2, if you compare that to Sacred 2, in Sacred 2, characters act according to their personality. You have characters with different personalities, as I was mentioning. For example, characters that want to be escorted, for example, are sometimes afraid. They're sometimes afraid. They're sometimes afraid, and you can see it in how they conveyed the feelings of the NPC in the dialogue boxes of this game. The only thing that would have made this game even more perfect is to add dialogue-voiced fetch quests, dialogue-voiced side quests to all of the side quests, to add dialogue to the side quests. So it only has dialogues in the main during the main quests. So yes, if we compare the quality, not only they act according to their personality, but they act according to the medieval setting they are in. The game is, even if it has magic, even if it has a lot of science fiction elements, this game is more historically accurate than 99% of modern games. And that's an impressive feat, considering the game was released back in 2008. What do I mean by that? That they act according, as I've said, to their personalities. The people who want to be escorted are afraid in their dialogues. The monsters act in a menacing way. For example, that's something shitty about something that I hate about Divinity Original Sin games, that monsters, a lot of monsters, are kind of like, they behave like you humans, if you pay close attention. In Divinity Original Sin, a lot of monsters, in a lot of fantasy setting characters, they act like humans. They're kind of like humanized in a way, and I think that completely destroys character cohesion. A lot of people will say, no, I want them to behave like humans so I can interact with them in a normal way and blah blah, and it's a cliche saying that the big bad monster has to behave in a different way. No, because that is called destroying the cohesion, the philosophical cohesion of the setting, making fantasy creatures behave like humans. It destroys the cohesion. This game manages that perfectly, because monsters have their own societal norms. They have their own societies. For example, the werewolves, the lizard men. For example, they worry about the silver, but they don't act like humans. Humans don't worry about being killed by silver. For example, that's why I highlighted that side quest. They have their own identity. They are not being humanized like in Divinity Original Sin, and that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference because this is real cohesion of having different cultures in a game. The problem, and this will be extrapolating it a bit, this will be a bit of extrapolating. The problem is that generally, a lot of games receive, see how far this will go. A lot of game development studios receive money from a lot of states, from a lot of countries, from the countries they are developing. So the games can be diverse and add a lot of DEI policies to it. They have kind of like departments. In case you don't know, Google what Sweet Baby is. Sweet Baby Incorporated, what a diabolical name. It's a company dedicated to checking if games have kind of like a standard quota of diversity and those things. But that has a lot of consequences. For example, first, there's no creative freedom, and you end up at Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin is pretty much the epitome of having a development plagued with DEI policies. Like, monsters have to behave like humans. You need to have a human character from each culture, but the problem is that those characters do not act according to their cultures. There's no real diversity of cultures at all. It's exactly the opposite. Precisely what globalists like. It's, hey, that's a legendary save. Precisely what globalists like, sadly, is a one-handed jackpot. They cause the opposite effect. They cause the opposite effect, globalist policies. Why? Because you add a lot of characters from different countries, from different cultural backgrounds, from different countries. And everyone that comes from a different country has a different culture and etc. because of the influence of history in our cultures. However, when it comes to culture, they all behave the same. I don't know if you've noticed. NPCs in games, and what globalists like pretty much, the socialist globalists like, is that we all come from different cultures, but at some point, we have a common set of rules that we all have to follow. See the trap? Alright, we bring people from all different cultures, but the second I say that I am a realist philosopher, and I tell them that metaphysical reality is separated from mental perception, and reality isn't the sum of mental perceptions, as I always say, and that causes that we cannot say that this is a chair, just like if we extrapolate this to a lot of other things in life, we get the result that thoughts, that mental perceptions don't change metaphysical reality. The second I say that, no, even if I give logical arguments, huh? You can see that everything that I say is with logical arguments. Alright, you use no, that, we like that you are, as, what do they call it? That was a terrible way of calling it. Latin, for example, the globalists, which are a small portion of the population. For example, the globalists in the United Nations and the Democratic Party, for example, will call me Latin. I'm not. I am. They, for example, don't know that in Argentina we are mostly 98% culturally European. So they'll say, all right, come, the Latins, we are inclusive, we include a lot of diversity and the like. We like diversity. Yeah. The second I say that metaphysical reality is dissociated from mental perception and that mental perception cannot affect metaphysical reality, oh no. What? A fucking Nazi? Are you a fucking Nazi? That will be the reaction. Are you a fucking Nazi? An extremist? Far right? No. Conservatives. The second. That will be the reaction, and it's not the case. I gave you throughout all of my streams, people, a lot of logical arguments why the most clear definition it would be I'm actually an Anglophile. In case you haven't noticed, I love the United Kingdom. But yes, I do agree that the metaphysical analysis of ancient Rome was the most accurate. But this has nothing to do with Nazis and those things. In fact, it's the opposite. I don't know if you know this, but all of those illiterates that say that a conservative is the most is the closest thing to a Nazi. It's actually the opposite. If you read books written by actual historians and people who actually spent their lives researching the topic rather than the crazy ideas of the illiterate ideas of what this new age democratic party philosophy has created, you'll see that the name is called National Socialism. National Socialism was the original name of the party. It's kind of like the exact opposite if you pay attention. It's actually a branch, and this is said by countless historians and books of people who actually invested their time investigating the topic, that it's that National Socialism, it's a variation of communism. And the problem is that generally the way communists solve their problems is by killing each other. Generally, 98% of the time. I haven't seen a single case in which socialism, different types of socialism that collide, don't work out their differences talking. So, the communism of the Soviets collided with the socialism of the Nazis. But if you analyze them, they are quite similar. They're the same disgusting scum. One, I can give you a lot of things. It's a pretty deep topic. But for example, both the Soviets and the National Socialism of the Nazis, both of them, the main core philosophy is to absorb the individual identity of the subjects. For example, on the polar absolute opposite, a conservative policy is to let that very individual have the exact opposite effect. Instead of being absorbed by society, is to ensure that it reaches the most individual aspect of it, be it successful or a failure. That's the very essence of conservatism when opposed to the National Socialism. That's why it's an absolute contradiction to say that National Socialism was conservative, because in its very name it says socialism. It was a variation of communism. It's a variation. And how does that end up? 98% of the time, the Soviet communists hated the National Socialists. Pretty much. And they kill each other. That is the real analysis. And I'm telling you this. I wouldn't tell you this without first reading hundreds and hundreds of books written by people who actually invested time of their life analyzing the topic. Not people who jump on Twitter to defend the Democratic Party of the US and say that if you say that metaphysical, well, if I start saying that metaphysical reality and the like, it would be worse because they wouldn't understand what I'm saying. That's the problem, as we've been explaining throughout the streams. So we have this contradiction. We have this contradiction that extends to game development. The DEI policies, and you can verify that I'm not lying at all. You can Google Sweet Baby Incorporated. Google Sweet Baby Incorporated, people. Google Sweet Baby Incorporated. It's a company that is founded. It's founded by the government. I think it was the Canadian government. Sweet Baby Incorporated. The Canadian government gives Sweet Baby money so they can bribe, because at the end of the day it's a bribe. They bribe companies to include DEI policies in their storytelling. All of what I'm telling you it's public information. DEI policies in their game, and they supposedly add diversity. And here's the conundrum regarding the cohesion of the character development in games and why in Sacred 2 is much better and realistic. Because characters act according to their personality and the cultural environment of the medieval setting they are in. And in a lot of modern games we don't have that same amount of quality because of what I'm explaining. They implement those policies. So, they implement those policies and supposedly we have diversity, right? The concept of diversity. Because we incorporate characters from different cultural backgrounds, from different countries, let's say. But notice the contradiction. I want to fill my game with characters from all different backgrounds, right? From different countries. In my case, I use myself as an example. They call us Latins, which is an absolute another stupidity because not all South Americans have the same culture. It's a stupid. We have polar opposites, for example. As I've said, in Argentina we are all kind of like 98% culturally European when compared to Central America. Just as a random example. But well, we bring a lot of characters from different backgrounds. All right. From different countries. See the contradiction. See the contradiction. Notice the contradiction. We bring them. But the second that, for example, I, as realist philosopher, right? With my Italian background and the like. Alright, come the Latins, come the Latins, come the Latins. We are diverse. We welcome all of you. The second I say that metaphysical reality isn't the sum of mental perceptions of individuals and metaphysical reality is separated from our mental perception, and thus we cannot say that this is a chair but a mouse. The second I do that, that we cannot have that. We cannot have that at all. We cannot have that at all. What a horror! What a horror! What a horror! No. Clearly what the individuals think is reality. Clearly that's the case. No. That's it. The horror. No, and I gave you all of the logical reasons throughout these 30 days of analysis of the game. So, when we take all of that into account, that's the problem that modern games have. In Sacred 2, characters act perfectly according to their personality, because it was common in medieval times, as I said, going back to my original example, that many
of those alive deserve to be dead.
That the original example was the one that, that characters act according to their personality, but also the medieval setting they're in. It's true, because the escort missions that we've done, for example, in which the people that we are escorting are naturally afraid, and they perfectly convey those feelings in the dialogues. it was pretty common in medieval times. It was pretty common that if you didn't live within a city-state, we still didn't have them, but they were like considered that at the time. It's pretty difficult to explain, but pretty much they were still, the concept of modern state was not developed, but we had kind of like, after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, it was a period of isolation, which does not mean this is a pretty common mistake. Everyone calls the medieval age the Dark Age. The Dark Age, due to the fact that the Roman Empire, and in a sense it's right, because the Roman Empire had many more developments, was much more advanced than what came after it. And in a sense, it's absolutely true. It was a Dark Age. But that does not mean that progress wasn't being done. Kind of like, it was slower, but we had some progress. But yes, essentially, if you didn't live inside a city-state by the feudal lord, the feudal lord would give you protection in exchange for the tribute. And I love how nowadays they demonize that period of time. All the slaves are slaves. They were all slaves. No, they weren't slaves. It was a contract, actually, not signed. You have to kind of like kiss the ring of the feudal lord, and in exchange for that, the feudal lord would prevent you from dying. He would protect you. It was the birth of a modern city-state. It was the birth of the concept of having a police. So, and what you gave him in return? He had access to...
Is that all?
To the tribute. You had to pay him a tribute. And I think he could have access to your wife. Well, that part we've improved a bit up. We have improved a bit. That's truly terrible, because in the Roman Empire that wasn't, since it had much more of a Catholic influence, that wasn't as common. So in that sense, it was the Dark Age. So he had access to your wife. But beyond those things, it's a huge improvement when compared to living outside of the city-state and getting killed, pillaged, and everyone raped by mercenaries and savages, like in a no man's land, in kind of like in the far west. I think it's an improvement. Kind of like you live inside of a city-state, but at least you get some protection in exchange for that tribute. So, why is it that I'm citing all of these references? Because I'm citing all of these references because characters in Sacred 2 act according to their personality. They act perfectly according to their personality, but not only that, they act according to the zone, to the medieval setting they are in. They act according to the medieval setting they are in. And going back to what I was mentioning,
Do not confuse bravery with madness.
Precisely. Both social and physical conservatism is the polar opposite of Nazism, of National Socialism. Why? Because it focuses on exalting, on enhancing the individual, the individuality of people. Kind of like socialism and communism, they try to absorb the individual personality. Conservatism exposes it. It's the most individualistic system, the most individualistic philosophy. It can be successful or a failure according to the talent of the person. It can be successful or an absolute disaster if there's no such talent. Precisely. But it exposes, it encourages the individual characteristics of individuals rather than absorbing them. That's a huge difference. That's a huge difference. As I've said, it can be for the better or for the worse, but at least it doesn't absorb the individuality of the person. Hey, we got our last skill. First, our rigorous concentration point. Then gruesome inquisition. And then well, I can select it besides the point. Yeah, but it will be at 0. What? Yeah, it'll be at 0. Combat display, combat art, combat faster. And combat arts in combos regenerate faster. Slightly increases damage of all combat arts. This one could be useful. The other one is Divine Devotion, huh? Or spell resistance. Yeah, I'm torn between them. Alright, we'll leave this one for later. Here we have 277, 266, 260. Damn it, why is it that Vitality is the one that is always lagging behind? No, I'll go with Intelligence, so I ensure that my attacks connect, because our accuracy percentage wasn't as perfect as I originally intended it to be. So yeah, I know these are complex topics that most people just don't even want to talk about, because sadly not a lot of people are qualified to talk about the things that I'm mentioning. But I can tell you that it's absolutely sad that we have these DEI policies in game writing nowadays, in game storytelling nowadays, in which, we want diversity. We want all of you from all different countries. Look how happy we are together. And precisely, Morgan Freeman explained all of this in an interview perfectly. He said, do you want to end discrimination and racial differences? Treat me like a person. And that's pretty much it. We don't need to classify people like Latins and those things. No. Treat the other human being like a person, and that's it. It's not that difficult. But the second you say no, we want diversity, but you cannot express that that metaphysical reality is dissociated from mental perception, and that we cannot change metaphysical reality with mental perception and the like, and everything is a matter of opinion. No. We agreed that that reality is the sum of perceptions. So if we all agree something, you have to obey it, and that's it. But besides obeying, you have to think like that, right? See the huge difference. See the huge difference, people. As I've said, between those two things. And as I've said, social conservatism only has the purpose of, alright, is that one. It only has the purpose of exposing individual talent, or lack of. That's the thing. And National Socialism National Socialism and communism altogether, both of them. The only thing they do, this is a shared philosophy. They absorb the individual features of the subject. It's exact opposite. It's exact opposite. The exact opposite. So it's actually funny when people call you a Nazi or an extremist or whatever because of that. It's absolutely funny because generally people on Twitter, on social media, and on average, people who actively talk about these topics and are fixated on proving that they are right, they are generally the most illiterate. Generally they are the most illiterate. 99% of the time. They are 99% of the time. 99% of the time, they are the most illiterate out of all of the population, and have no idea what they are talking. So yeah. Connecting all of this with the gameplay mechanics of the game, with precisely the thing that we were talking, the game makes a great job. Sacred 2 makes a great job at having cohesive characters that also are, of course, not affected by DEI policies because they didn't exist back in the day. But they also act according to their personality. They act perfectly according to their personality. They act perfectly according to their personality. So yeah. It's incredible how they act, besides according to their personality. They also act according to the medieval setting they are in, which is should always be appreciated, because otherwise we end up with the crap that we get nowadays. Medieval characters with a modern relativist mindset that is definitely a sacrilege to the work of art that the developers do. So yes, in case you haven't noticed by now, I think DEI departments shouldn't be a thing. I think Sweet Baby they should go to jail. They should go to jail because at the end of the day, it's bribing, and bribing, it's a crime. There's the lawyer in me talking. And yes, definitely. DEI in games shouldn't exist. And what was the other one? The ESG score rating shouldn't exist, because precisely they destroy the grandeur, the cohesion of the games, the fact that characters cannot act according to the time, to the historical accuracy and the medieval setting of the fantasy setting of the game we are talking about. It's a game, it's not real life. It should have the liberty, the freedom, the real freedom of having medieval characters with a medieval philosophy, with a medieval mindset, and it should be historically accurate. Even if then the developer decides to include flying Pegasuses and zombies and the rest. I love that when people say, but you don't complain that the game has, realism. You're looking for realism. You don't complain that it has a werewolf in it, for example, or this magical setting of this other one. It has nothing to do. A game can have a magical setting, but have a realistic medieval mindset, like Sacred 2, coexisting together. This game is culturally, historically accurate, but then it incorporates science fiction elements. It cannot be historically accurate with science fiction elements, yes, because you shouldn't analyze elements altogether. They should be dissociated, dissected in a way that you analyze them one by one, just like I do. The problem is that takes time and effort, and those are two things that generally we don't have nowadays. We generally don't like to put in effort in doing anything pretty much, and also we don't have the time because of Sigmund Bauman explains this perfectly, because of how liquid society forces the individuals to think about several things per second at the same time, and as a consequence of that, you cannot focus correctly on the topics at hand, because it sounds like one after the other, and kind of like the human brain is not designed for that. I have a lot of stuff here that I need to reorganize so I can loot. This one?
I don't have any room left for that.
Damn it. And it's like that, people. It's like that. It's like that because let's see, for example, this one increases your fire armor. It's like that, people, because
I should clean up in here sometime.
There we go. 140. Yeah, but the one that I have, melee. No, the attack value. Forget it. This one does have defense value. I'll consider this one. 132. Chance to reflect ranged defense and ranged defense, and this one. Attack, it has accuracy. Well, interesting. So yes, people, yeah. I know that in most streams, generally people don't talk about this because the audience isn't. Give me a second. I want to check out the bitrate. I know that in most streams people don't talk about these things. They don't even mention these words. They don't even talk about politics and the like. But the problem is that that is because generally they don't trust the maturity of their audience. I do trust the maturity of anyone who watches my streams. So that's a huge difference. Since I trust that you are mature enough to at least listen to what I have to say, since I trust on you, because I know that anyone who spends more than 1 second listening to my streams at least has a real open mind to at least try to understand why someone says something. When you get to that point, I bet you can understand everything that I say, even if you don't agree with me, which is absolutely perfect, and I love it. I absolutely love it when that happens. Even if that's the case, there's true variety of analysis of metaphysical reality like that. Otherwise, we all listen to the same, we all agree on the same, we never discuss anything, no objective conclusions are reached, and we become illiterate savages. That's the difference. That's a huge difference. You can listen to what I say and everything, and agree or not agree, but the difference is that at least we are trying to reach metaphysical, we are trying to reach an objective conclusion through metaphysical reality, instead of saying, oh well, you think that, you are an idiot, that's it. Or you are not an idiot, the other one, the other argument they usually use, what was it, the radical, no, it was a radical left. Trump used to say that. He says that. But the other one was the other one, the far right, the far right, the far right. Far right equals, he doesn't agree with everything that I just say, with everything I say. No, far right. He just said something that I don't agree with. Far right. And you think that happens to me because I am generally lean conservative, but no, it has happened to socialist friends that I have. You must be thinking it only happens to you, Erasure, because you're Italian. Well, you're Italian. Italians are socially conservative by default. Nope, it's not the case. It's not the case at all. It's not the case at all, people. It has happened to a lot of socialist friends, even more than to me, because in my case, when I start talking about metaphysical reality and those things, it has a different effect, because generally the leftist, the socialist, when I tell the person this, at least they listen to what I say. At least they listen. Maybe they hate what I say, but at least I have their attention. But in the case of socialist friends who don't have the same philosophical background, when they try to tell them, well, it's a bit extreme to say that is correct to, for example, you can be socialist and you can be against abortion, for example, just as a random topic. Because here in Argentina that happens a lot, because we have a lot of left-leaning people who are also Catholic, and they like kind of like a lot of socialist policies. But when it gets to the topic of abortion, they say no, and they are left-leaning, for example, and they come to me and they tell me, this other person is more extremist than you aren't an extremist, and this guy who is from my same ideology is an extremist. It's kind of like it's kind of like a brainstorm where that happens, and I tell them, yeah, well, if you have time, I can explain you why. All right, and I start telling them everything that I tell to you on stream and everything that I always like to comment about. And at the end of the day, they might not agree with me, but at least we can talk. And they tell me the problem is that when with the other person I cannot talk. That's when I tell them my theory of, not my theory, it was actually made. Metaphysical realism was discovered. It always existed. It was documented. It was documented. While it has its Greek origins and then the Roman Empire and everything that I always comment about, how it was the embodiment of Greek philosophy and the like. It is true that the father of metaphysical thought, we could say that it was Aristotle. But then it's true that the one that also contributed a lot, I would say it was you have Thomas Aquinas, but that one is kind of like the religious variation. In my case, the most accurate would be the Anselm of Canterbury. The Anselm of Canterbury, Thomas Aquinas, is the one that wrote the most. that wrote the most. It's kind of like one of the most brilliant minds. It's the name of my law school, in fact, and well, but as I tell you, I'm kind of like, I support a variation, a non-religious variation of metaphysical realism, which is extremely uncommon, but it would be because it's next to non-existent. As I've said always, the closest will be Sigmund Bauman, for example, a Polish-British philosopher, but the Anselm of Canterbury, and Thomas Aquinas, even if they are religious, you can kind of like only grab the portion that is kind of like shared with Aristotle, who wasn't religious because he was from ancient Greece, and in ancient Greece we still didn't have Christianity. So it would be Aristotle, first of all, but also the Anselm of Canterbury expanded upon it during the medieval age, during medieval times, adding the religious section that you can, in my case, dissect from the overall theory. Of course, most realist philosophers will have a lot of logical arguments to say that you cannot separate the religious part of metaphysical realism from it, but I have proven to you countless times that it's possible. That I think I never mentioned any religious reference while in my analysis, and that's precisely what I look forward to, because as I've said, I don't believe in God. As I've said, it will be pure realism. It's called pure metaphysical realism. It's kind of like the purest form of realism. Kind of like the religious. I can hear the sound of battle. They can be far away now. The religious variation of metaphysical realism, it's not as pure as the one as the philosophical variation that I support. Mine is kind of like the one that the Anselm of Canterbury supported. I think the Anselm of Canterbury completed the circuit that Aristotle had started, and Thomas Aquinas straight up created something different. It's not totally different, but it's different enough as to separate them. Hey, what's the defense rating of this thing? Why am I not hitting it? Oh well. I can go much deeper, but I think it would be way too brutal, guys. I think it would be way too brutal for a stream about video games. I love talking about all of these things because at the end of the day, it demystifies illiteracy in the sense that a lot of people believe that National Socialism is a variation of conservatism and it's a variation of communism. Because socialism is a variation of communism, and the name is National Socialism. So, as I say, they always end up killing each other. Socialists hate communists because... Sorry, communists hate socialists because they are not as extreme as socialists, because they are not as extreme as communists. And the socialists hate the communists because they are more extreme than them. And everything goes to shit. So it's a contradiction. It's a straight up saying the polar opposite. Saying National Socialism and conservatism is kind of like referring to two opposite poles of the equation.
Have any room left for that?
And trying to somehow stick them together.
Check my inventory one more time.
For example, socially conservative would be precisely my citizenship. my second country, my second citizenship in Italy, and in Argentina by extension, we are truly socially conservative, and we never had a dictator in Argentina, for example. In Argentina, we had dictatorships, but it's not the same. For example, the dictators were socialist, precisely. Like, how do I put it? Because I know it's a huge cultural shock. In Argentina, there was never slave trade. There was never African slave trade, as an example. There was never the dictatorship was that we had. The brief period was socialist, precisely, and precisely we lean socially conservative because of our Italian and Spanish heritages, because of our heritage, and precisely we never participated in very few, in almost no international conflicts. And you can see that it's the polar opposite. You said, what? You're socially conservative and you didn't do slave trade, you didn't participate in... We only helped during World War II at the end, and then everything went to shit, as I always say. Then we had there was a local conflict that involved Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. The Triple Frontier War, which was a problem that exceeded us, that we weren't the protagonists. The protagonist was Paraguay, a local small landlocked country pretty close to here, and we never participated in it. And the only problem was then the Falkland Islands, that certainly was 100% a problem of the socialist dictators that were back in the day. So yeah, you can see why I'm always against that, because I actually read a lot about those things. I had to, and I can perfectly tell the difference. And if there's one thing I don't like, it's, as I've said, ignorance. But nowadays we have a lot. So that's the thing, people, basically, that's the thing. For today, as I've said, I wanted to cover that aspect of the gameplay mechanics, of the impact of the ambience on the player and the like. And well, I wanted to cover all of that. So yes, it's incredible how actually social conservatism is the polar opposite of National Socialism. It's the polar opposite, the absolute polar opposite, and I love it when they try to associate them, because it's such a degree of illiteracy that it's a scary. It's a scary because it implies that the person can be convinced of a lot of conclusions. The person can be convinced of a lot of conclusions in a pretty easy way. That's the thing. So when I see that in a lot of modern games, he loves the green ones, thank you so much. That in a lot of modern games, they defend DEI policies and making characters act in a modern, with a modern philosophical mindset instead of a historically accurate medieval mindset. It's a